enough rambling. We can't seem to shut up when we get together. So,
I know.
Who could have anticipated that, you know?
Three women who like to talk and are like, we like to talk so much, let's start a podcast. And then we can't stop here.
You know, whatever works for us, right?
Yeah, it's all fine. Yeah. All right, Joe, give us the mysteries. Take us to
all right. So, the Superstition Mountains are a volcanic mountain range that tower nearly 6,000 feet above the Sonoran Desert here, and are among the most photographed site in Arizona, second only to the Grand Canyon. Didn't know that. But, do you know what gave the Superstition Mountains their name?
Not the Stevie Wonder song.
No, not the Stevie Wonder song.
Then I'm lost. I have no guess.
Absolutely
witches.
Not.
No, wait. We're superstitions. I was going to say witches, but no, it's got to be some native superstitions or something, huh? Maybe?
Ooh, Amy, you're almost there. We'll get to it.
Witches?
Hey, that would be really
combine them.
We will get to it because tonight I am Joe, your tour guide for this episode, and this is Murderous, Mysterious, and Macabre. And tonight I will be telling my co-hosts Amber and Amy all about the Superstition Mountains in Arizona. Ooh. Warning, reminder that you can find content warnings for the episode in the description below. All right, so the Superstition Mountains is a mountain range in Arizona located east of the greater Phoenix area. They are based around the Superstition Mountains. So there's the Superstition Mountains and the Superstition Mountain. So there's an actual mountain in the mountain range that's called Superstition Mountain. But the entire range is called the Superstition Mountains.
Yeah, because I've always heard
not at all confusing.
Mountains. Like I know the range.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was like an extra superstitious one. Like
there is an extra superstitious one. And this is a popular recreation destination here in the state. Just lots of hiking, lots of camping, and we'll get to some of that as well later on. They are roughly bounded by the US 60 on the south, Arizona State Route 88 on the northwest, and Arizona State Route 188 on the northeast. So for you guys who know the area, think when you're heading out to the Renaissance Fairgrounds, it's literally you pass that and you're right at the fairgrounds. Or, sorry, you just after you pass the fairgrounds, you're right at the Superstition Mountains.
And we actually drove out that way before. So it's like, for those of you not in the state, it's like the longest stretch of nothing. And
truly,
then, like,
yes.
Boop, there's the fairgrounds, and then boop, there's the mountains. Like, it's just out of nowhere.
Longest stretch of nothing, and then just randomly you get to this little like town area as you get closer to it, and there's just random streetlights on the fucking highway. Mm-hmm. And it's awful traffic, especially when the fair is in town.
Oh yeah.
I would hate to live out there.
Yeah.
But you guys can go ahead and go to the first page of images. Okay. So this
pretty.
It is cute.
So this first image here is of what's considered like the Superstition Mountain as part of the Superstition Mountain Range. And then below that is just an image of the various different trails that are along the mountain and mountain range. There's tons of them. One included called Haunted Canyon that I never knew existed. And I will never go to at night because we'll get to it later.
Well, I'm just a name like Haunted Canyon. What's not to love?
Right? I honestly think the only one that I've ever heard of is Tortilla Flat.
Yeah, and that's actually a town name.
Yeah, like that's by far the most well-known one, I think. But there's a cemetery. Yep. All right, I can't wait to hear all about this stuff.
One. Oh gosh.
Roosevelt Cemetery up by Fraser and Two Bar Ridge.
I like it.
Well then.
Haunted. I love that it's literally just on a map, Haunted Canyon.
I know.
I love it.
My other favorite is Montana Mountain.
Montana Mountain.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I thought it was like Montana, like Spanish. It might just be Montana, the state.
Nope, it's just Montana.
Okay. I thought it was like mountain twice, and I was like, ooh, naming. But I just can't read, so that's all we've learned tonight.
It's a little blurry.
Lost Dutchman State Park. Is the mine anywhere near there?
Lost Dutchman is included in the Superstition Mountain lore, and we'll get to it.
Interesting. Oh, foreshadowing.
You got
There's a whole bundle of stuff, guys.
You got a banger for us to close out season 1. This is going to be awesome.
So the mountains, because again, there's the mountain and the mountain range. But the whole mountain range is dubbed the Superstition Wilderness area. So it's a protected area and has a variety of natural features, again, including its own namesake mountain. There's also Weaver's Needle, which is a prominent landmark and rock climbing destination to the east of the Superstition Mountain range. And it's a tall, eroded volcanic remnant that plays a significant role in the legend of the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. It's like a marker that they use to try and help map their way there. And there, again, are numerous hiking trails across the mountains with multiple access points, including the more commonly known and more commonly used, the Peralta Trailhead, Peralta Canyon, Wave Cave, which I've actually hiked up to accidentally earlier this year because I saw online it was supposed to be an easy hike. It was not. So I'm just going to say don't. It's basically like once you get up the mountain about like half the way up there, you are basically boulder climbing the rest of the way.
Some.
That's easy because I'm an idiot. So
that's an easy hike. I mean, nothing. That's nothing.
Nope. And Miner's Needle. So there's Weaver's Needle and Miner's Needle. They are similar prominent formations in this wilderness, and again, popular destinations hiking out here, as well as Lost Dutchman State Park, which is part of the Superstition Wilderness area, located on the west side of the Superstition Mountains, and includes several short hiking and mountain biking trails. So there's tons of activity that you can do out there, yada yada. Now let's get to some of the fun stuff. First, we are going to talk about Circle Stone. So you can go to the next page of images while I discuss Circle Stone, ancient stone monuments. So Circle Stone is a set of stone ruins in Arizona's Superstition Wilderness, about 45 miles from Phoenix. The ruins are not a circular space of standing stones. However, like many standing stone monuments found elsewhere in the world, it does have elements of construction that to some suggest it was built to track celestial events. So instead of like Stonehenge, where the rocks are going completely upwards and around in a circle, as you guys can see from the images, these are just like smaller but white colored rocks, which are not normal for the area, placed around the ground in a particular shape. And the circle stone structure is one of similar, again, roughly circular stone wall sites that survive in the region. So there are some others that are similar to this, which again leads them to believe that they were possibly used to track celestial movements and help them with planning throughout the year. And there are plenty of other places in the world where we see that. Again, Stonehenge is one of them. And they track the movements of the stars, the moon, our revolution around the sun throughout the year. So pretty neat, and also something that I didn't actually know about until I started doing this research, which again, it's like, but how do we not know about this shit?
Yeah.
I know.
Did we not know?
It's literally right in our backyard. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, we are at like the bottom of the U.S. for our schooling system in Arizona.
That is true. That is true.
That we're not hitting on any of these topics.
Yeah. Yep. And we don't cover a lot of topics historically that are actually relevant to the state of Arizona, truly. We don't.
That's true.
We cover more just general U.S. history. So, like, the Apache Wars that happened out here, not a lot of people know a bunch of information about that. People talk about Geronimo a lot as, like, a figurehead in history, but they don't know that he was part of the Apache Wars out here in Arizona. He was a real person. People sometimes think it's a fictional character. Drives me nuts.
Was made up.
So...
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you whitewash history classes, and you don't like to teach anything that puts you in a bad light. So it's kind of hard to be
ridiculous.
Like those savages if they're smart and can, track
celestial
the
events,
celestial system.
Yeah.
Not the white man, apparently.
No, we prefer to think of them as just cartoon characters that we made up. So.
Yeah.
Keep it that.
Fucking rude. Anyways, so Superstition Mountains, again, this circle stone, they believe was likely created by the native inhabitants that once roamed here. So it was inhabited by indigenous tribes such as the Acamel, Ohodam, and the White Mountain Apache. And geologists say that the superstitions were formed by intensive volcanic activity in the region more than 18 million years ago. So these have been here for a very, very long time. They are not newly formed, but they are volcanic rock that just ended up being landlocked area of a continent. And the mountains were actually once part of a large caldera, which... for anyone who doesn't know, I'm sure we do here because we're science nerds. But a caldera is a volcanic feature formed by the collapse of a volcano into itself, making it a large crater. Think Yellowstone National Park. So, Superstition Wilderness is pretty huge. Used to be a huge caldera. Makes sense. Just this huge patch of volcanic rock. So the mountains have had various names over the years, including the Crooked Top Mountains, Thunder Mountain, and Mountains of Foam. And the local Native Americans were described as quote-unquote superstitious about the mountain, which led farmers in the area to christen the mountains with their current name in the 1860s as the Superstition Mountains. And I do say quote-unquote superstition because it really ties more into just what were their religious beliefs at the time. Just like you can call Christianity mythology, right? Like, it's not necessarily a superstition, it's just their religious beliefs. And some, even to this day, claim that they hear rumblings from these superstitions that sound like rolling thunder because the White Mountain Apache believed that their thunder gods lived in these mountains, and that it was possibly also somewhere that there was a hole leading down into the lower world, or their version of hell. I don't know if it was like fire and brimstone kind of belief. I didn't dig into it quite that much, but that's kind of how it's discussed. And so geologists think that some of this thundering noise could be from seismic activity resonated by the canyon walls, or by winds blowing from the hole around the holes, and they create this noise. The Apaches think that winds blowing from the hole are supposed to be the cause of severe dust storms in the metropolitan area, better known as haboobs. And you can go to the next image page. You guys have likely seen this image before. Lived here. It's in our news stories pretty much all the time. Images like this, or even this one, just repetitively used sometimes, even if it didn't happen recently. Just huge cloud of dust. And so the White Mountain Apache believed that thunder gods lived there, maybe led to their underworld, and that the winds that came from it created these huge dust storms. So, Amy, you were a little on the nose there with it possibly being some Native American beliefs. It is. Yeah.
So
like
weird.
What just happened? Oops.
Right,
You're just not good with any technology. It's fine.
No. We already got a cover story. We are great with technology. The Superstition Mountains don't want us talking about
That's fair. That's right. Okay.
This is all on the down low, people. Don't out us.
Stick with that.
Don't spill our secrets.
So the last secrets, I guess, we'll not quite bring up again, but again, just to recap, Amy was kind of on top of it with it getting its namesake from native beliefs. Not necessarily superstitions, more of like their religious beliefs, but people didn't, they fucking whitewashed everything. And if you weren't Christian or Catholic or something along those lines, then it wasn't a religion. So,
yeah.
Christianity is mythology. Fight me about it. Anyways. Next weird thing about the Superstition Mountains. Twice a year, during the spring and fall equinoxes, a shadow is cast on the mountains that looks just like a prowling cougar, and the best time to get a glimpse of this unique shadow is around 30 minutes before sunset, each of those time periods in the year. You can go to the next page and see an example image of this shadow being caught.
Cool.
It's like a skin walk.
That's sick.
Yep. And again,
That's awesome.
really fucking weird because it happens during the spring and fall equinoxes. Yes. Took me a second to grab back onto that. I know my shit. Anyways. Yeah, just like there's the circle stones, which track like celestial movements. Also, somehow there is the image of a prowling cougar twice a year on very specific celestial dates. So
you can totally imagine how any kind of group that lived in this area for so long would develop a mythology around this. Like if you
seriously,
on big solar celestial events, you're like, oh, that to me
the Jaguar
appears. A mythical beast. Like that's
if you
developed an entire belief system.
100%. If you look at the rocks too, like it looks like fire and lava. No wonder they thought this led to hell. Like 100%. This imagery makes complete sense. Complete sense.
Oh yeah, it's just to give clarity too for any of you listening in to what Amy is saying. The rocks look under sunset are like orange and yellow, like and splotchy kind of like it definitely
like flames really almost. Like
it does look like flames. Like it's crazy.
Yep.
And it's just like, so much of it's like kind of oddly shaped, like just like straight and jutting out. Like it's just very unique looking. Like 100% could say.
Oh yeah. So just another weird thing. We don't necessarily have explanation for it. It just happens there. So yeah, fun stuff. Next thing.
Crazy.
Because there's more.
There's so much more. There's so much more.
Because there's more. So the next topic is to discuss a little bit about the legend of the Lost Dutchman's gold mine that, again, centers around the Superstition Mountains. Again, hinted at earlier because we have the Lost Dutchman's wilderness area that is a part of the Superstition Mountain range. So for those who are unfamiliar, there is a legend that a German immigrant named Jacob Waltz discovered a motherlode of gold in the Superstition Wilderness and kept it hidden for a number of years, only revealing its location on his deathbed in Phoenix in 1891 to a Julia Thomas, who was a boarding house owner that had taken care of him for many years as he aged and, got sick and died. Several mines have been claimed to be the actual mine that Waltz discovered, but none of them have actually been verified as accurately his mine. And that could be either, people want to keep the legend alive for tourism stuff, or it could just be, nothing quite fits with this whole motherlode description that he used to give out. Either way, technically, we don't think this has ever actually been found. And there's a couple of different theories on this. Again, one is that there was a motherlode mine and that maybe there was a cave-in somewhere, and so people just have not been able to locate it again. And then another was that Waltz, who was actually a miner at the Vulture mine nearby, possibly stole gold and came up with a secret mine to explain his theft and how he just randomly happened to have all this gold. But we don't know what the truth is. Again, hasn't really been verified that anyone's ever found the mine. Since his death, many have gone in search of this motherlode of gold, and some say as many as 600 people have died in search of the gold, and many have gone missing. And this Julia Thomas was no stranger to that theory that, you know, people go missing, people die, and that there's a curse. She actually did fund and lead an expedition out there after Walt's death to try and find it herself, because again, he theoretically told her where it was, but technically has not been verified that anyone's ever found that mine, including her. So, who knows?
Wow.
But again, people say that it is cursed in terms of the entire Superstition Mountain range, and that it kills those who dare to explore or plunder its riches. And there are claims of mysterious stone maps etched into the mountain walls showing the location of riches, possibly leading people to some mines, possibly leading them to their death. So, possible curse on the mine. There's also been reports of strange sightings over the years and creatures across the Superstition Mountains that kind of goes into this theory of like tons of mines and caves and whatnot as well. And this ranges from ghosts and strange lights, alien UFO sightings, to sightings of odd creatures like the Mogollon Monster, which we have discussed before, skinwalkers.
I knew it was coming.
Of course. Feral, possibly cannibal people living out there, and reptilians that live under the mountain. So, tons of weird stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not those individual things like exist there. Maybe this is where they all have their Renaissance fair.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Get together once a year.
They're just like, let's hang out. These are my peeps. We're on the same wavelength. Let's get together.
Mythological convention. We wait till the cougars coming down from the sky.
Everybody look for the cougar. Look for the cougar. That's where we'll be. I love it.
Go to the mouth of the cougar, and that's the entrance you need to go into. Don't actually do that, guys. It's a joke. Just say.
Please don't.
Please.
Literally, there could actually be an open shaft there, and we don't want you to fall in, so don't fucking do that shit. But anyways,
we are stupid and we think we're funny. Like, don't listen to anything.
Please don't listen to us.
But so tons of stories over the years, tons of weird stuff that have happened. But the Superstition Mountains, despite all of those weird things happening for years, didn't actually reach any sort of popularity until like mid-early 1900s. And it was made famous by the case of Adolf Ruth, who was sort of revered as like the amateur explorer and treasure hunter that made the mines into a national phenomenon, looking for the Lost Dutchman mine. Again, wasn't the first person to look for it. Obviously, Julia Thomas was probably one of the first, if not the first person to look for it, because she was told the location of it by him on his deathbed. But Adolf Ruth is the one that became famous, and we will go over why. So Ruth had a bit of a disastrous expedition, and before that, the mines were little more than a footnote in the history of Arizona, because this was essentially one of 1,000 so-called lost mines that peppered the state. There are tons, again, of just like caves and old mine shafts that have not been used in years that people stumble across and still have precious materials in them, and people think, oh, I found this really great cave and it's all mine. Like, no, someone found it in like the 1800s and plundered it, and maybe some new stuff has come up with erosion and whatnot, but probably weren't the first person to discover it, essentially. And since there's so many of them, it wasn't really very well pointed out of like, oh, the Lost Dutchman's treasure for years after his death, until this Adolf Ruth person. So Ruth's son, Irwin C. Ruth, heard of, and I am going to refer to this as the Peralta mine here, because that is another name for the Lost Dutchman mine. The story behind that is there was a family that was from Mexico, according to the story, that owned a mine here in Arizona, and they would crisscross back and forth to transport gold from their mine to Mexico. And this was the Peralta family. Story goes that one of their last runs, there was a bit of a shootout on their travels, and so they just stopped coming back. So it was then sort of just left by them and then theoretically discovered by Jacob Waltz. So I will refer to it as Peralta, but it's the same thing as the Lost Dutchman's mine. So Adolph Ruth's son, Irwin C. Ruth, heard of the Peralta mine from a man named Pedro Gonzalez. According to the account in 1912, Irwin gave Gonzalez legal aid, saving him from some imprisonment possibilities. And in appreciation, Gonzalez told Irwin about the Peralta mine in the Superstition Mountains, if I can talk, and gave him an antique map of the supposed site. And Irwin gave that information to his father, Adolph. So, in June of 1931, Father Ruth set out to find the lost Peralta mine, and after moving to the area, he was around for numerous days at the ranch of a Tex Barkley to outfit his expedition, and Barkley urged him to abandon his search for the mine because, quote unquote, from the sources that I used to find this, which I don't remember exactly at the time, I think there's a book about this, but quote unquote, the area and the mine's cursed and full of devils. So, again, for a long time, people knew, like, this is a really weird area. Don't fucking go around there doing stupid shit. Don't go on an expedition when you're not, like, an actual miner or anything.
Yeah.
But
if you're a white rancher, you can call out all the weird shit. But if you have some dark skin, they're like, oh, you're superstitious. What's wrong with you?
exactly, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking assholes.
So ridiculous.
Ugh. But so Ruth ignored Barkley's warning and set out
As
for
one does.
Why not?
yeah, set out for a 2-week expedition into the cliffs, and he vanished while hunting for the mine in the summer of 1931. First of all, we've said it many times, don't go hiking in the
Why
desert
the
in the
summer?
fucking summer. Why would you do that to yourself? Why?
So many other weeks of the year. Why would you pick 2 weeks in the summer?
Yeah.
Because he was stupid, Amy, that's why.
For just for reference, for anyone outside of Arizona who's like, yeah, summer's hot, but whatever. We have had excessive heat advisory warnings since I think the first day of July, if not end of June. And when it's excessive
6 weeks
heat,
straight.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like excessive heat does not happen for anything below triple digits, and we can see as high as like literally 120 like in summer. So
we have had
bad choices were made.
Air traffic at the airport stopped for full days because there's a possibility of tires of the planes melting to the tarmac. So it gets fucking hot here.
It's no joke.
It's not hiking
no joke.
weather. Like,
no, it's really fucking not.
No. It's not even light hiking weather, let alone let's get all like geared up for 2 weeks of travel and excursion.
I just need to express that, like, during summer, I have to mentally prepare myself to open the front door and walk to my mailbox, because it literally feels like when you open an oven and get a rush of hot air out. That's what opening your front door feels like. Like you're not like, I should go wandering around for 2 weeks in this. Like,
if you happen to accidentally touch like the metal buckle on your seatbelt, you could get like a second or third
blisters.
Degree burn. Like, it's bad. It's bad hot here.
Yeah, you cannot. We have to buy like little booties for our dogs because like feet and paws cannot even touch a sidewalk without literally burning. Like you can get real burns.
Gosh,
for at least a third of the year.
Yeah, so you do not decide to go on a 2-week hike into the mountains in that weather.
Especially
unless you're a dumb white guy. who wanted to find gold, because that's what they do, Amy.
Literally, if I wait a few weeks, somebody else could get my gold.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I think I would let them.
I would too, honestly. It's not worth it. It's really not.
No.
But so anyways.
For gold that might not exist. Like, you could show me the gold. You could have a chest full of it and you could show it to me and be like, 2 weeks in the desert. And I would say, no, thank you.
Yeah,
like,
no.
For maybe gold, there's not a chance.
Nope. But anyways, so he disappeared on his 2-week expedition in the summer of 1931. And what makes the case so interesting and what made it so famous is that his skull with 2 bullet holes was recovered about 6 months after he disappeared. Scroll to the next image page.
Oh, yeah.
A Dr. Hrdlicka, I think I'm saying that right. It's spelled Hrdlicka. I don't know. Dr. Hrdlicka positively identified the skull as that of Adolf Ruth, and he further stated after examining the 2 holes in the skull that it appeared that a shotgun or high-powered rifle had been fired through the head at almost point-blank range, making a small hole in one side where the bullet entered and a large hole where it exited, which is what you guys are seeing.
Yeah,
wow.
So he didn't just go missing, someone shot him.
He went murdered. Okay.
He went murdered.
Yeah. Yeah. And for anyone who's listening, like, when these pictures are posted, just so you know, you get the full, like, you're going to see this skull and you're going to say, that is not 6 months later. That looks like it's been sitting out for 100 years. This is the heat we're talking about. This is what happens.
Yes.
Like, this thing is like stripped to bone, weathered, bleached it within 6 months.
Bleached white. Yeah. Like, it's
so
rough out here.
Yeah.
And his skull, as far as I can find, it was just his skull that was found. I don't think his entire body was found. So also possibly ripped apart by creatures out there for food.
Animals. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't fucking go hiking in the desert, especially in the goddamn summer. Granted, again, he was murdered, unalived, however you choose to say that, so we don't get censored or taken down or whatever. I don't think they would, but you never know. Just still, part of that was probably he was weak from dehydration and shit in the desert, and possibly someone just came up and shot him.
Yeah. Or wandered
there was
somewhere
actually,
he wasn't supposed to. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is from a 1945 book. Oh, this is where I got the earlier quote from. The 1945 book about the Lost Dutchman's mine called Thunder God's Gold by Barry Storm. He declared to have nearly escaped a mysterious sniper he later called Mr. X while searching for the mines. Adolf Ruth went missing in 1931. Book was released in 1945. Could have been someone out there just randomly shooting other people so that they didn't get a stake in a claim of anything that they found. So, could be murderers out there. Murderers, like serial killers. Who fucking knows? But this story essentially is what led to this being a national sensation, and so suddenly everybody knew about the mines and the horror-riddled backstory, and this is how the Lost Dutchman's gold mine became such a popular legend of the Superstition Mountains. And probably before, but also since Ruth's deaths, because again, not a lot of records before that, there have been numerous other deaths or disappearances in the Superstition Mountains. There were the headless remains of prospector James A. Cravey that were discovered in the mid-1940s. In late November or early December of 2009, Denver, Colorado citizen Jesse Capon disappeared in part of the Tonto National Forest that is also overlapping with the Superstition Mountains, and his campsite and vehicle were recovered shortly afterwards. He was remembered as having been obsessed with finding the mine for several years, so likely that he went out trying to search for the mine. And his corpse was found 3 years later in November 2012 by a local search and rescue organization, stuffed into a crevice. So,
Oh.
Again, that could just be he fell into a crevice. I don't necessarily know what exactly entitled them to call it stuffed. But again, could have been murdered and shoved down there. Could have fallen in accidentally, not been able to get out, and died of heat stroke. Who fucking knows, you know?
That's wild.
That's crazy.
Even in the winters that can get really hot out in just direct sunlight here, because there is no fucking shade.
Yeah.
None. We don't really have like big trees or anything in the desert area where this is. It doesn't exist. You're going to be in direct sunlight for quite a bit of your day. And then also on July 11th, 2010, Utah hikers Curtis Merworth, Artie and Charles, and Malcolm Meeks went missing in the Superstition Mountains while also looking for the mine. In January of 2011, 3 sets of remains assumed to be of those 3 were retrieved from the mountain range. So plenty of disappearances, missing persons, deaths that are kind of unexplained, possible murders happening. Just all around not necessarily the best place, but it's, again, the second most photographed area and a very popular area that people still go to. So, just be careful when you're out there, guys.
Yeah. Apparently it doesn't even help if you're going groups. 3 people all at once.
Nope.
That's wild.
Not helpful.
Nope.
Not helpful. And it is still a desert. So even in the winter, even in like there's no moisture, there's no humidity, there's no snow that you can eat to get water into your system.
When there is rain, no matter the time of year, our dirt is so compact, and again, our mountains, like the Superstition Mountain Range, are mostly made up of volcanic rock material for a lot of them.
Yeah, you get flash floods.
You get flash floods. You get stuck in a crevice, you're probably going to drown before you die of heat stroke if it rained on you.
Or you get washed into it. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, you get washed right into some cavern or crevice or something somewhere.
Yep. Who knows?
No, and I know you had brought up your story, Joe, of like going on a supposedly easy hike and it being really challenging. But the one thing I've heard as somebody who enjoys hiking in Arizona is that the Superstition Mountains, period, are like notoriously dangerous places to hike.
Yep.
So
And
it's actually not recommended unless you're very experienced.
Yeah.
For these reasons.
And I was always told growing up in a family of people that like to be outdoors and go camping and hiking and stuff, we never went camping in the Superstition Mountains because you were not supposed to be out there after dark. You just weren't.
Yeah. Yeah, I know some avid
it's like the golden rule out
climbers.
here.
Yeah. I know some really avid rock climbers who have said like they have gotten into some sketchy situations at the Superstitions and they will never go back there to climb again. So
yeah, smart,
difficult all around. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but so that's just some information and background on the Superstition Mountains, and now we're gonna get into some Reddit stories. Yay! So the first one is not technically from Reddit. I did find the post from Reddit, but it was essentially an image of like a reptilian man's face. It was doctored, like created image, that had a link to a Portuguese website to discuss this experience. And it's because later on in this page, they discuss a author / researcher named David, I think it's pronounced Ike. His last name is spelled ICKE. But the site also has some videos of him discussing his research into reptilians and the Superstition Mountains as part of that research. So they linked this story to him for some reason, but the story doesn't seem to actually include him anywhere. And it was in Portuguese, so I had to get it translated by Google. So
interesting.
If I pause somewhere, it's because I'm trying to figure out the grammar.
Fair enough.
Oops. But this supposedly happened in March of 2000, and we're going to call this woman Angie. That's what she's called throughout the story. It was made very clear that that was not her actual name, but we're going to call her Angie. So Angie liked to go hiking and liked to wander around the Superstition Mountains, collecting various shiny pebbles and stones. So she liked collecting rocks. Who doesn't? Everyone sees interesting rocks and likes to pick them up. And if you don't, you're a psychopath. Sorry. You see a pretty stone, you're going to want to at least pick it up and inspect it, man. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
And this is why girls need pockets.
Yes, we need better pockets.
We need pockets.
What we were given.
So on a particular day where this happened, she was drawn to a shiny object along the edge of a canyon in the Superstition Mountain range that was a white quartz. And she started going back to her car after she found this, stopping at a cave for a quick drink of water in some shade that's rarely provided out in the desert. And she started to get up after getting her drink of water and getting a little rest before hiking back. And she saw what looked like a very strange face in front of her. And she was a little taken aback, but then composed herself and scoffed, is how this is worded, at how a silly mask was to her, then understood that the face was actually the face of a lizard on a human body, not a disguise. So she didn't see just the mask. She saw a person out in the wilderness, alone, randomly, by yourself. And at first you think they're wearing a weird mask and you don't immediately run for the hills thinking serial killer.
Yeah.
Not victim blaming at all, ever. Just saying, like, where? What?
Where's the red alarm that goes off?
Yeah. But so it went off in her head when it dawned on her, like, oh, it looks like a lizard face on a human body, not a mask. So she then remembers the sound of her own scream and then complete darkness and woke up in her car behind the wheel while it was moving and had to pull herself over on the side of the road to, like, compose herself. And when she got home, she would spend hours in the shower, feeling an urge to clean herself, not knowing why. And she would be very distant the following days. She would cook, but wouldn't really eat. She'd turn on the TV, but she wouldn't really be paying attention to it, kind of like in shock. Thoughts were jumbled. She couldn't really pay attention to anything really going on around her. She was just going through the motions. But after kind of locking herself away for several days, she finally went back to work, which was apparently at a pet store. And when she saw a lizard that was there, she was overcome with fear immediately and was very traumatized by her own behavior of, why am I reacting this way? I haven't had this reaction before. Ghosts.
That's fine.
Ghosts.
We've
all got ghosts.
We've all got ghosts.
Every single one of us. Goddamn.
That should be a t-shirt, though. Got ghosts.
Got ghosts.
In the vein of a Got Milk commercial.
I like it. I like it. I like
We're going
this
to jot
idea.
that down. All right. Anyway, sorry for our, like, 20th technical interruption of this episode.
It's just one of those days, man.
Please tell me more about this creepypasta wherein a woman cannot stand being around lizards in a pet store.
I know.
That's where I left off. So
my skin is crawling.
So she got freaked out by a lizard in the pet store she worked at. She was traumatized by her own behavior, and so she then went and sought some help. She
Did she get hypnotized?
Yes. So she kind of figured out that it had to be something that happened while she was in the Superstition Mountains when that weird thing happened to her. And she found a friend who was able to hook her up with a trained hypnotist who had experience with hypnotic regression. So she got hypnotized several times and doesn't tell how many times later, but it took numerous sessions for her to really figure out what happened after her scream and blacking out. She supposedly was in a cave or underground base where she woke up, and the area around her, she said, was filled with strange noises like barking or chirping noises. She made many unsuccessful attempts to sit up and look around, but she was stuck in some sort of weird sticky stuff, kind of like a glue trap, I guess. Just not a fun thing to think about at all.
No.
But so she could not sit up. She couldn't really move. She could make out faces of her supposed captors as they approached her while she was in this sort of glue trap weird thing. And their eyes seemed to glow yellow. And their faces she described as human yet reptilian.
I don't like that.
Either.
No.
And supposedly they wore a image that looked like a monkey with a curved dragon and a 7-pointed star in the middle of it as an emblem or symbol on their clothing. Most of these figures were dressed in black, 2 were dressed in white, and 1 who she noted had a lighter skin tone than the others was dressed in orange. And she sort of feels like these represented ranks or position in terms of the different colors. And the paler reptilian person, she said, had many more emblems and symbols on their sleeves, so not just the weird monkey star dragon thing going on. And this was like inverted triangles, a circle with 3 straight lines through it, like just some odd looking stuff. Yeah. And so this one also was considerably taller than the others at about 2 meters tall and gave the impression that it was in charge. So different color, different symbols, being bigger. Makes sense. You would think that it's the one in charge, right? Fits in my brain. Mm-hmm. So she then remembers getting gently stroked by something cold and falling unconscious and would wake up
I don't like the phrasing.
Yeah.
Gently stroked by something cold. I just had a very visceral reaction to that, and I couldn't stop myself.
Yeah. Not okay.
Sorry, not sorry. If I had to read it, you have to hear it. Ha 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 ha. Anyway. Gentle stroking. She fell unconscious and then remembers waking up in a new place, a strange oval-shaped chamber. She was met with a sight in her mind that she was not really prepared for. She said it redirected her focus to what she could see around her. She noticed that there were tubes with strange, deformed balloon-like bags hanging from them on the ceiling. She said she experienced another wave of horror and bewilderment when she saw something moving inside of these bags. So, execs, probably. Gives alien vibes, you know? Like the Alien movie franchise. But instead of coming up from the ground, hanging from the ceiling.
Yes.
So she said there was no doubt that there was something alive inside the bags and realized that she was naked at the same time.
No.
And then she realized she was not alone because one of the lizard beings was with her, and one of them approached her while no longer wearing its jumpsuit, and she tried to push it away, and there was a blue light that got shot at her, knocking her unconscious again. So, kind of alluded to, there's the theme of possible sexual assault by a reptilian in there, and there's a thought that she was assaulted as part of an attempt to breed with humans and create hybrids. I.e. children theory, where aliens are trying to mate with humans, and the black-eyed children are their fucking offspring. Some weird shit. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the black-eyed kids?
Amy? No.
Oh gosh.
Freaky.
No, I'm gonna go down a wormhole.
There's a great episode that Em did in And That's Why We Drink on Black-Eyed Kids that you should listen to.
Oh, it still gives me that one.
A little bit of chills.
Coverage. Yeah, I think about that sometimes, and it makes my skin crawl. But yeah, I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy that parallel.
But that theoretically happened to that poor woman. Again, it was all in Portuguese. I don't have her real name, and I don't blame her for not wanting to give it. Truly,
no. When was this time frame? Did it say in the article?
The year 2000.
Oh my god, that was way more recent than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. So, fun stuff.
God. Not cool.
Not great at all.
No. We're not off to a good start.
There are worse ones out there, though. So I chose some of the less crazy ones, the less traumatic ones.
Oh, that's cool. I'm glad to know that we're getting lightly traumatized tonight.
Yeah.
And I broke it up. Okay, we're not doing a super traumatizing one for the next discussion of the next Reddit story.
Okay.
But I am sending you a link to this one so that you can look at images posted on there. And this one, I sort of like truncated it a little bit more because it starts discussing other stuff than just the Superstition Mountains. But it's based around the thought that there was a Roman colony in the Superstition Mountains. They call it Calalis Colony. Possibly a Roman colony that was formed in the Superstition Mountains searching for, again, gold. Like, gold mines are supposedly what drew Romans to the Superstition Mountains. And even in this post, they talk about it drawing in Atlanteans. So, but theoretically, again, there are images of it, but I don't have any true, like, articles that I was able to find on it. But theoretically, there were 2 iron cross-shaped artifacts found that have some weird, like, glyphs on them, and they think that this is Roman artifacts, and that's what leads them to believe that this could possibly have been the site of a Roman colony. And they do give a little bit of proof in what they call the Brazilian anomaly, where they say there was a Roman ship found in a river, similar to one that they found in Brazil. So theoretically, they also found a ship somewhere in the desert that was a Roman ship.
Crazy.
And theoretically, they also found one similar to it in Brazil. And Brazil, I think, is a little bit more feasible. We know that Vikings made their ways to the North Americas well before Christopher Columbus ever existed. So it's a possibility. Polynesians, we know, came over, like, I think it was 40,000 years earlier to South America than we ever thought humans were in South America, and there's true definitive evidence of this. I think it's possible a Roman ship in Brazil could have found its way across the oceans and up one of the huge rivers that's in that area, but to get to Arizona in the middle of the desert, it doesn't make sense. So
that's a much longer way to travel.
Really, really weird theory. And this post also goes into some other really weird shit, just sort of surrounding this idea of, like, Romans traveling across the globe, essentially. Just some really weird stuff. But yeah, theoretically, 2 iron cross shapes found with some weird glyphs that they think were Roman. Also discuss Atlanteans. Also possibly a Roman ship found. So who knows?
Crazy.
Wouldn't be the first weird thing to happen with the Superstition Mountains. The next one, let me just check real quick. I can't remember if this one had an image for me to show you guys. I put the link in there for myself. No, it does not. But so this Reddit post discusses that there's an article on Medium that says that aliens are eating people in Arizona with the government's knowledge, and that the two of them, the government and the aliens, are building a base in the Superstition Mountains. And there are comments in this thread on Reddit, and one theory in this is that some sort of deal was made between the aliens and the government, and to prevent the aliens from completely wiping out humanity, missing persons, so all those disappearances, they are actually being fed to the aliens to appease them in exchange for not killing us and flying saucer technology and other advancements, which are being made secretly until the right time comes for their use, which is a common theory other than the eating humans part. But allegedly, there is a huge underground base beneath Dulce, New Mexico. Dulce, I don't know how it's pronounced. I don't know much about New Mexico, because who wants to go to New Mexico? Sorry, New Mexico. I don't know. It's another desert. I don't know why I'd want to go there.
Yeah.
Which is about 250 miles from the Tonto National Forest. So it's thought, like, they built a base in New Mexico. They built one under the Superstition Mountains. They're pretty close to each other. They could maybe have some sort of way to easily travel from one to the other. And so the theory also goes that there is a species called the tall whites that are believed to also reside at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, and that they built an underground base there in 1941. Who are these aliens? So they even start talking about alien species.
Mm-hmm.
This is weird.
Because they know all of this.
It's so weird. And then the last story. So I tried to break it up with a little bit less creepy.
It's gonna be another bad
in
one.
between.
This one's gonna be a doozy.
It's gonna be another doozy.
I need a drink for this one. Hold on.
I am putting in another link.
Is this where we find out the haunted canyons?
No, actually, I did not find any stories that specifically related to that.
Okay. I was gonna say, with a name like that, I thought we'd find like lots of.
Other than just there's reports of ghosts. Other than that, I have no fucking clue.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I am posting another Reddit link for you guys because there are images to go with this one. Skinwalkers.
No, you're not supposed to talk about that.
Too fucking bad.
I love me some Skinwalker story.
They do me a creep.
Start a podcast. Have fun with your friends. No, I'm going to traumatize them instead.
Start a podcast. Lightly traumatize your friends.
So, this Redditor posted some images to go along with their story. They said, and gosh, it says last year in June, but I don't know what year it was unless it was. It says 8 months ago that the post was made, so sometime literally last year, theoretically. So
June 2023.
June 2023. A really good friend and I pulled over here to Rockhound, which is kind of like boulder climbing, like I had to do for Wave Cave. Not quite rock climbing, but also kind of intense. And as they got closer to the mountain, had an uneasy feeling that we were not alone or in an area that something more than human was living in. As the sun was setting, we pulled out our flashlights and I told my friend randomly, let me know if you see any glowing eyes.
Setting sun, again, really
Setting
bad time to go into any mountain, but these ones in particular, I'm sure.
So no idea why they said it, they just did. I remember she gave me a quizzical look because I rarely say stuff like that. Okay. Sure you do. Anyway, we made our way up the hill, and that's when we found the carving on the rock of a face.
Sorry.
You okay?
I interrupted that beautiful thing, your dramatic timing with my sneeze. I did not mean to interrupt that.
Sorry. So made their way up the hill, and that's when they found the carving on a rock of a face. No idea what it means, and I'm kicking myself for not taking a picture of the carved symbol. It's spelled craved. Oops. Carved symbol above the face. It was of a whirling log, a silnooli, a sacred image representing a legend that was used in healing rituals, but they thought it was a swastika, which anyone who did take some more introspective history classes did learn that they did take that symbol for the swastika, and it's basically the same thing, just tilted a little bit, so it looks like a different direction. The silnooli, if I remember correctly, is supposed to actually look more like a compass, like direct up and down, side to side, so like north, south, east, west, and the swastika is tilted. So, wasn't, but that's what they thought it was at first. Could still have been. Don't know. Yeah, but they don't think it was. They did their own research and were like, I think it's this. And like, I don't have an image to look at and agree with, but maybe you're right. Maybe you're not. Maybe there's racists out there. It's possible. There's fucking murderers out there, so.
Yeah. There's people with guns out there. Sometimes
yeah, for sure.
In hand.
Continuing. So that's why I did not take a pic at the time. At this point, it seemed to get really dark around us, thick like fog. I felt a heavy feeling weighing me down, and my friend tensed up, a look of fear on her face, and she suddenly said, "We need to leave now," and started down the mountain. Not wanting to be left alone, I followed, and that's when we ran into these footprints. We don't remember them being there when we started. Some are old, though one looked really fresh. Looking closely at the picture, with part of my shoe in it, it looks like an animal track at the front, but the back of the toe print looks like the back heel of a human. They got goosebumps while telling the story, writing it out, blah, blah, blah. I look at these photos in the hotel room later that night, realizing what might have been watching us in the dark. It was confusing at first because the footprints were clustered together in the same area, but they were different sizes, as you can see, so it makes me strongly feel it was shape-shifting in that spot for no reason. Plus, it was a full moon that night, as you can see in the last pic. It still gives me these emotional feelings knowing we are not out there. Sorry. It still gives me these powerful emotional feelings knowing we are not alone out there and these amazing creatures do exist and need our respect. Okay. That's the only reason I believe in my heart we are alive today to tell this story, because we accidentally entered its domain, realized our mistake, and left quickly. Whatever was there by no means threatening us, yet every fiber of our bodies was telling us we need to get out and get out now. The drive back on the dirt road was very tense. That thick darkness followed us along the way. The headlights of the car barely seemed to help, and that heavy feeling did not go away until we got back on the main highway. Plus, the mind was terrified that a dark figure would appear in the rear view mirrors or lumber across the road. So, I do have to say, in every other instance I've heard or watched video evidence of possible skinwalkers and shit, I don't necessarily think it was respecting you, knowing that you were in its space and trying to leave, because they will try and get into your house. Like they're,
they're not respectful beings.
I will respect. I will respect the mythology behind them and the stories behind them from the Native American perspective, because again, that is part of their beliefs. This is something that they have passed down from generation to generation to warn each other of. They have, again, these sort of, not superstitions, but again, practices. Like Amber said, you're not really supposed to talk about them. You're also not supposed to whistle at night. So, because it will attract them is the thought process. But yeah, I don't necessarily think from everything I've heard that thing was respecting you, respecting its space. I think you just maybe startled it and it didn't quite get a good grip on you, you know?
Yeah. Or maybe you encountered a harmless werewolf and not a skin.
It's
a full moon. Like maybe it was
a werewolf, doesn't know what it's doing yet. It's just trying to
coyote, it's like it gets smaller instead of bigger, and it's like fuck, there's two of them. But,
it's like you know what that reminds me of? That dude who like lived with the bears up in Alaska. And he's like, no. Like, he did it for so long. He's like, they're my friends. They understand me. They understand.
I respect them.
Like,
they understand.
Yeah, until it killed him and ate him. Like, it's still, like, don't mistake your luck for them having some kind of respect for you.
Yep.
Like, it's
you respect wildlife because you're in its space.
Yeah,
but
they don't respect
it's not going to respect you back. It may decide not to bother with you because you're not worth its time if you're leaving it alone. And it's not starving, but it's no.
Yeah, but the literal moment that you assume that like nature can respect you is probably the moment that you're dead.
It's such the hubris of man, right? Like, I'm a man, of course they respect me. It's just like, no.
Of course I can go. Yep. Of course I can go on an expedition for 2 weeks in these mountains in the summer. Like, I am all that is man, and I can do anything I set my mind to. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And good old human hubris gets us every time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But if you go through the images that are attached to this post, you do see some images that look like some weird kind of footprints, kind of dog-like, but kind of not. There's also an image of that face carved into the rock that they found.
Weird.
That's really weird looking. Don't know what that is. It's got a huge fucking nose. That's what I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Big old ears, and it looks too big ears.
Yeah.
Pointy ears.
Big pointy ears. So, Who knows? Maybe it's the reptilians just making petroglyphs of themselves.
Yeah, marking their spots. Like, I was here, guys. This is me.
So, that is the Superstition Mountain Range, and their weird theories and stories and legends behind them. I'm pretty sure, once again, we all know the answer at the end of my story, but would you ever want to go out to this mountain range? Particularly after dark? No.
Next, that's going to be a really hard no for me.
No.
Really hard no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not an outdoorsy kind of gal to begin with. And so, like, I'll do the nice hike, the casual hike. I'm down for that. That's fantastic. But dangerous, difficult, scary hikes on top of, skinwalkers and reptilian rapists, I'm not down for any of that. Like, that's just not my jam. I'm never gonna go here.
Yeah. I will go during the day and on more popular, well-traveled trails, very easy ones. Wave Cave was a mistake. Don't do it, especially with children. I don't know why people were doing it with children. I was scared for them. People had like the backpacks on and everything, and they were just
gosh.
No, I'm not hiking with my child on a backpack while I'm climbing over boulders. Why?
That's insane.
Oh, my anxiety went insane. So the legends and lore of the Superstition Mountains can be experienced if you're so bold. There's the Superstition Mountain Museum on the Apache Trail, where artifacts of the Lost Dutchman are on display, as well as, again, it being a very large recreational area with tons of hiking and biking and rock climbing trails. Just, again, please be safe. Go out in the middle of goddamn summer, especially if you don't have sunscreen, something to shade yourself if you're stuck in direct sunlight for long periods of time, food, and water.
So much water. Yeah.
Literally double or triple whatever amount of water you think you will.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whatever you're taking, it's not enough, okay? Never enough.
No.
But with that, once again, I'm Joe.
I'm Amber.
And I'm Amy.
And this has been Murderous, Mysterious, and Macabre. If you liked this episode, please consider reviewing and sharing our show. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you like what we do and want to help us cover more murderous, mysterious, macabre places, you can join our Patreon linked in the comments below. And if you go hiking in the desert, doesn't matter the time of year, bring your fucking water.
Yes. And also, don't go hiking after dark, especially not on a full moon.
Yeah,
no.
I think we've learned this season, just don't go out in the desert at all.
Just don't go to Arizona, really, I think is what we've learned. I think that's where we're ending at.
Sorry, Arizona.
Come visit all these wonderful places we found and talked about. They're great.
Yeah.
Some of them are great. Some of them are very scary. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.